not raining today, although it is really cloudy, and apparently we have an extreme warning for wet snow. We'll see. Day 3 of the recovery process too. I honestly still don't feel anything, so I wonder if that means I'm in the clear in terms of the pain aspect anyways. The most I felt was the gap. It actually did literally feel like it was closing or something like that just a day ago. And what did I read today? Lots of interesting stuff actually. Got me thinking about things like that DJI blacklisting and stuff like that too. But the first one here dealt with things like safety and stuff like that. People often joke where if you're afraid of a drone that much, you should be afraid of kites as well. So reading this one here says, drones, aerial devices, fireworks posing threat to aviation in Cayman. The Civil Aviation Authority of the Cayman Islands is reminding the public of the risk to aviation and public safety which come from flying of small unmanned aircraft, also known as drones or unmanned aerial vehicles, kites, sky lanterns, and fireworks displays, which are received as presents or used as part of the holiday festivities. So when it comes to the drones, pretty standard stuff that most places are saying. For example, keep line of sight, stay away from those controlled airspaces, etc., etc. Otherwise, you can incur huge fines, I guess, as the incentive for you not to do it. But reading the part about the kites is the most fascinating and interesting, because it says here, the flying of kites in the vicinity of airports is potentially dangerous to aircraft, particularly during the takeoff and landing phases. Not only is there a risk that the body of the kite could damage the aircraft or be ingested by a jet engine with possibly catastrophic results, but the control lines, sometimes made of high tensile steel wire, on performance aerobatic models can pose a significant hazard to propeller-driven aircraft. Article 71 effectively limits the height at which a kite can be flown to a maximum of 100 feet above ground level within a 3 nautical mile radius of an airport. Beyond this distance, a kite cannot be flown above 200 feet AGL within the Cayman Islands. It makes me think that the average person flying a kite, like a child, would probably be so far away from the actual airport, even if it's like, say, 1 nautical mile. They're not going to be right up to it with their kite where it's going to go in the engine or anything like that. But at the same time, it does make me think though, in terms of things like a drone regulation, this is actually how it should be overall, in my opinion. You have like a general guideline where you don't go above this certain height, and you should be okay regardless if it's a restricted zone or whatever in terms of a controlled airspace. So like here, even that person was like, say, 1 nautical mile, 2 nautical miles, whatever, pretty far away from the airport. If they're flying 100 feet or whatever, tree lines or whatever the tallest object is here, there should be no worries. Like here, they should not require some kind of advanced license, so to speak, to fly something like that in that way. That's how it should be, in my opinion, for really simple, basic operations. Wouldn't you find that absurd, for example, if you're flying, again, a kite and they require you to take examination for stuff like that? I don't care how much it costs. It's more about, again, the principles of it doesn't do anything about safety. Making them learn about things like what, clouds and stuff like that for flying like kites? Because I could argue with the 100 feet in the air, what if the 100 feet was literally someone living in a high rise? They're flying their kite that's not going over the high rise. Like, is that going to be illegal? Oh no, it's going to hit an airplane or something like that. And with all that news about DJI being blacklisted, whether or not that was due to actual security concerns or is it just based on commercial and political reasons, I thought it was kind of interesting just to see what was going around the world, just in terms of news around Chinese companies and all that, because that is a hot topic usually. And it kind of makes you wonder, I guess, with the perspective, is it warranted? Are they overreacting? Because if you read some of the stories recently, like this one here, it says, data leak alleges Chinese Communist Party members employed with Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and other global firms. As per a report, companies where alleged Communist Parties of China members are working as employees are Pfizer and AstraZeneca, ANZ, HSBC, Boeing, and Volkswagen. So what they're alleging on these articles is there's actually a huge data breach or something like that, where Chinese Communist Party members are working in these high-profile companies trying to influence them. That's what they say anyways, that's the concern. It seems to add that paranoia. I know nowadays, with more people having to work at home, having to do video conferencing, that Zoom software just blew up. And according to this anyways, there were some people trying to celebrate the Tiananmen Square massacre. And that was that infamous one, or that picture that's really famous. The one where a lot of people were trying to promote democracy around China, and there's a guy standing right in front of a tank. Well, apparently people were having this Zoom conferencing call, and an executive, I guess from the company, abided by whatever that Communist Party said. We don't like these guys, what they're talking about that, shut it down. And apparently that's what happened, and I guess it was an investigation with the FBI and all that from the US. So it does happen. So that probably elevates the fear again of any Chinese companies having some kind of influence with the Communist Party, and they want to get rid of it as soon as possible, or suppress it if that's what we want to say, as opposed to strictly commercial reasons. And then reading other stuff, like what is this? It says exclusive, suspected Chinese spy targeted California politicians. A suspected Chinese intelligence operative developed extensive ties with local and national politicians, including a US congressman, in what the US officials believe was a political intelligence operation run by China's main civilian spy agency between 2011 and 2015. So they're saying this person here went and made buddy chum, so to speak, with a lot of these politicians. She got really influential, I guess you could say, within that circle. And from what I gather, I don't know if this is true. This is so political and stuff like this. Like, who knows? Could be propaganda. I don't know. But they're saying once the FBI found out about this person, checked their backgrounds, were suspicious, the lady or whatever just took off and went back to China or something like that. And can you imagine a person like that, if that's true anyways, being so influential in that case? Generally it says, the woman at the center of the operation, a Chinese national named Fang or Christine Fang, targeted up-and-coming local politicians in the Bay Area and across the country who had the potential to make it big on the national stage. Through campaign, fundraising, extensive networking, personal charisma, and romantic or sexual relationships with at least 2 Midwestern mayors, Fang was able to gain proximity to political power according to current and former US intelligence officials and one former elected official. So it makes you wonder if that's true in terms of, again, things like the paranoia where there's Chinese Communist Party members in these companies, politicians in their beds, according to this. And then you have this article that says China vows countermeasures on US sanctions against its firms. So it says they're going to hit back with all that blacklisting. But then you read other articles, like this one here says, Biden's space advisors urge cooperation with China. Top advisors Joe Biden have argued that it's important to cooperate with China on space exploration, even as the incoming administration treats Beijing as its top economic and military competitor in virtually every other realm. They assert that despite China's pattern of stealing American technology and diverting it for military purposes, a limited space partnership between Washington and Beijing could reduce tensions and the likelihood of a destabilizing space race. The move would be akin to the cooperation between the US and Russia's civilian space programs during the height of the Cold War. I believe in the US there should be a huge administration change, right? But that just shows you as an example, I guess. You just need the right people to make the decisions in order to completely change the viewpoint in terms of certain countries. Like here, I don't know, I would assume the current one really dislikes China having any tech or so forth, probably for these reasons they indicated in the articles, where on the other side they say, no, we have to cooperate with them, be more friendly and share and so forth. Would you, based on everything that's said? Again, I don't know what's the truth and so forth. It's just so many articles, again, these political stuff, that's why I stay away from it. Usually you don't know what the truth is. I just know things like the censorship is 100% true in terms of what happens over there. So and that says that is what you shouldn't take lightly, in my opinion. But I guess that offers a perspective, what potentially influenced all this stuff. Because I know for us who fly things like the drones and stuff, many of us will say the product works. It's one of the best values, so to speak, for what you get. At the same time, are you worried where if a bunch of people start using it, let's just say like that Zoom software in this article, where they become so big, people in North America become dependent on it, it's their standard way of life, then they can control you just like that with their product if they feel like it, they want to censor you. So let's just say with the geofence or something like that, they say, I don't like this guy, ground him. Can that actually happen? I don't know. But again, it kind of offers perspective of everything that's playing a factor here, I would assume, in terms of that blacklist. Because if you think about it, probably even North American companies do things that people would assume, hey, that's unethical, so much control. Like so much talk about what Facebook, Google and all that, having all this information on people, suppressing opinions, that's what they say. I mean, it happens everywhere. It's just which one, I guess, do you believe in all that? Actually, I want to do a test with this as a camera since it was brought up. 2 different cameras, which one looks better? Alright, see you guys later.